Inherit the Wind retold in the gentle, reflective, and plain-spoken voice, the way he might have told it sitting on a porch swing, the evening light fading, his words carrying that steady mix of wisdom, warmth, and quiet conviction. You know, sometimes a town can look just about perfect on the outside. White church steeple, courthouse clock, folks saying howdy on the street. And yet underneath all that, something's boiling. Not anger exactly, more like fear. The fear of somebody asking a question that don't fit in a neat little box. That's what happened down in a place called Hillsboro, a small southern town where Sunday school was the heartbeat, and every question already had its answer written in black and white. One hot summer, a young schoolteacher, name of Bertram Cates, decided maybe the world was big enough for more than one kind of truth. He taught his students about Charles Darwin, about evolution, about how the world might have grown and changed over millions of years. Didn't preach it, just shared it. But to some folks, that was like setting fire to the Bible itself. Well, that lit the fuse. The preacher, Reverend Brown, thundered from his pulpit that Cates was a sinner, dragging the children of Hillsboro straight to hell. The good people of the town, frightened but curious, decided to make an example out of him. And before long, that little classroom turned into the stage for one of the biggest trials this country had ever seen. The headlines called it the trial of the century. Reporters came from everywhere, scribbling down every word, trying to make sense of a town that looked like a carnival and a prayer meeting all at once. And then the lawyers arrived. On the side of the prosecution was Matthew Harrison Brady, a man larger than life, 3 times a candidate for president, known coast to coast as the champion of the faith. When he came to town, they met him with parades, banners, and a brass band. Folks treated him like a prophet stepping right out of the Old Testament. But then came the defense, Henry Drummond, old, rumpled, sharp-eyed, a man who'd stood up in more courtrooms than he could count, but never one like this. He wasn't there to mock God or to tear down the Bible. He was there for something quieter, something tougher, the right for a man to think. Now, that courtroom, it was hot. The air itself felt like it was on trial. Brady thundered about sin and salvation. Drummond spoke about curiosity and courage. It wasn't just a battle between 2 men. It was a tug of war for the American soul. Drummond said, "The right to think is very much on trial here." And he was right, because when you take away a man's right to think for himself, you don't just silence his mouth, you cage his spirit. Brady quoted scripture with the thunder of a preacher. Drummond asked him gentle, painful questions, ones that peeled away pride and left only humanity. And you could see it in the faces of the townsfolk. For the first time, they weren't sure which man spoke for God and which one spoke for man. By the end, Cates was found guilty, but fined only $1. The crowd cheered Brady one last time, but he was spent. A man who'd fought so hard to be right that he forgot to be kind. And when the noise faded and the courtroom emptied, Drummond stayed behind. He reached down and picked up 2 books, the Bible and The Origin of Species. He held them for a long time, one in each hand, like he was weighing the whole argument of mankind right there in his palms. Then he smiled a little, tucked them both under his arm, and walked out into the sunlight. Because truth, you see, isn't a matter of choosing one book and burning the other. It's a matter of keeping your mind open and your heart humble. Now, I'll tell you something. Folks like to think Inherit the Wind is about religion versus science, but I don't see it that way. I think it's about courage, the quiet kind, the kind that doesn't come with applause, and it's about standing up in a room full of people who say you're wrong and having the grace to say maybe, but let's talk about it. And that's what's beautiful and dangerous about freedom. It lets us disagree, sometimes loudly, sometimes painfully, but it gives us the space to grow. See, when people stop thinking, they stop caring, and when they stop caring, they stop being truly alive. Drummond said something in that courtroom that stayed with me. He said, "Progress has never been a bargain. You have to pay for it." And that's true. Every generation pays for its questions and leaves behind a little more light for the next one. So maybe Hillsboro wasn't just a town on trial. Maybe it was all of us, the whole country, even the whole world, standing in that courtroom, deciding whether we want to live by fear or by faith in one another's right to search for truth. Because at the end of the day, faith and thought don't have to fight. They can walk side by side, one lighting the way for the other. And maybe, just maybe, that's what it really means to inherit the wind.